Central government led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Tuesday marked 100 days in office for its third consecutive term, and the last 100 days have been historic in many ways, with the nation witnessing a slew of new development projects for every sector, including that of agriculture. Farmers in Udham Singh Nagar district of India's Himalayan state of Uttarakhand. Take a listen.
जितना भी कार्यकाल हुआ है उसमें मोदी जी की योजनाओं से बहुत लाभ हुआ है किसानों को। जैसे किसान सम्मान निधि है, किसान सम्मान निधि से छोटे किसानों को बहुत ही फ़ायदा हुआ है। उनको जब ये किस्त मिलती है उससे बहुत ज़्यादा उनका फ़ायदा होता है।
All right, let's quickly go back to our top story on Union Cabinet's nod on one nation, one election, and to talk about the larger and far-reaching implications and benefits of this electoral reform. We are joined by Mr. Akshay Raut, former Director General Election Commission of India, joining us on the show. Good evening, sir. Sakal here. It's such a pleasure.
Hi, good evening, Sakal.
Yes, sir. Such a pleasure having you on our show, sir. So let's first of all talk about the contours of how this is going to be a big game changer of the electoral reforms, the big picture, because we know that the proposal aims to streamline India's electoral process by reducing the frequency of elections, which normally are staggered over multiple years at different levels of governance. How does concurrent polls actually galvanize the entire process?
Oh, it's going to be transformative when it is implemented, because it will change the whole situation of the electoral cycle, the way elections happen. It's not exactly something new, Sakal, in two ways. One is that the fact starting from the first election in 1951, 52, then 57, we are having elections together to states and to state assemblies and parliament. And only when there are certain state assemblies which had to be dissolved before time for various political reasons mainly, so then we had a situation in which elections got staggered. They never happened together. And the number of such elections increased day after day because also new states were formed, like we had Uttarakhand, we had Chhattisgarh someday. And we had new states coming, so the new assemblies, so they will have a different schedule. Because the rules of the constitution, they are quite clear. They always set a tenure for a particular house, assembly or Lok Sabha or even Rajya Sabha. And then, unless unnatural things happen, they do their full term. But politically speaking, there are always ifs and buts.
Right.
So we have a situation today in which plenty of elections keep happening through the year. And for example, just take the example for what's happening in India right now. We are in the polling process for one state and the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and Haryana. Okay?
Right.
And very soon it's likely that as this gets closed, say around 2nd or 4th of next month, we will have a situation of other elections coming up like Maharashtra and Jharkhand, and with Delhi not far away. Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we will have elections and elections and elections. Okay, that is not a great thing in terms of in governance,
Yes.
in terms of logistics, in terms of management.
That was my next question, Mr. Raut. Now, also, if you look at it through the prism of, the cost-saving measures, with the potential to significantly reduce the financial burdens, the administrative burdens of holding frequent elections. It's a calendar year. It's like 12 months and then again 12 months. Lot of pressure on the security apparatus as well. We're going to do away with all of that.
Not do away. I think
As
they
in
all be
reducing
pulled
the
together
burden.
at one time.
Yeah. Reducing the...
Yeah, so let's approach it a little systematically. In fact, if there is a cost, I do not think any cost is big enough for, getting the democracy going. So the cost, I will not make it as a big factor. But it's definitely cost, and India needs money and resources for other things. So money is important. But there are other things also. For example, we have regular requirement of security. We have regular requirement of staff and personnel who are drawn from like schools, teachers, and revenue officials. Always there is a situation of shortage in schools. So we want education for children. We want teachers to be there, but they are put on election duty. Okay, that's one. And then these are small things, but I am concerned about another big thing, Sakal, which has not been discussed much.
Yes, sir.
That is, elections time, unfortunately, has become a very toxic time in terms of money and misinformation flowing.
Okay,
And
yes.
and lot of things are spoken in the heat of election. But if there are repeated elections, then it will happen again and again and again. So okay, there is one-time elections, and any people take liberties, people break the rules to some extent. Election Commission tries to control, but if it is repeated again and again, it's not going to do a lot of good to the health of the society and the Indian nationhood. That's one of my concerns. At least in one flow, okay, there will be certain deviance and certain control. But if it happens again and again, I think it weakens the whole fabric.
Okay.
And I am also going to tell another thing. This is like former President Mr. Pranab Mukherjee had advocated one nation, one election. In 2017, Niti Aayog did a proper consultative paper in which it gave all the reasons why elections should be held together. And then we had law commission speaking about it. We had election commission saying that yes, if the laws are ready, if the constitutional positions are ready, they will do it. But at the same time, it cannot be overnight wonder also. I mean,
Correct.
today it is decided, tomorrow it is implemented. It's not that. It will go in phases. Like besides the statutes which have to be changed, the election commission will definitely require sufficient amount of notice and
Correct.
preparation time, whether it is the electronic voting machines or it is getting the electoral roll ready or it is getting the whole machine, because it will be an aggregate of elections.
Right, right, right.
So it requires a time of notice, a time of preparation to make it feasible. And desirability, there are many, many reasons for it. And one of the things which is mentioned generally is that what will happen to the aspirations of small groups and states and small political parties. I don't think that's a very big issue, because we have seen, forget this election, in last election, I'll take the example of the small state of Odisha. And people in the simultaneous election, people voted for one party to parliament and one party to assembly.
Correct.
So people are able to, now the electorate is mature. They can distinguish between whom they are sending to Lok Sabha and whom they are sending to assembly. And just few months back with the national Lok Sabha election, we had 4 state elections, and it happened. So it is just clustering elections. Even now, from Election Commission's point of view, Circle,
Yes, sir.
we have seen that to save time, money, cost, and security engagement to get it together, they mostly prefer to cluster elections, to put together. Even if they are few months apart, they try to club the elections together. They're saying clubbing or clustering of elections. It is happening as a norm. It's not a rule. It's a norm. But
Okay.
now but this will require a lot of political give and take.
I was,
because-
yes, sir. So,
Yes.
yes, the political give and take. And now, what really explains this political resistance coming from certain quarters who are calling it, or perhaps, this narrative that one poll, one nation kind of compromises the very ideals of democracy?
I do not think so. There are countries in which elections, if they have provinces and states or local body elections, a lot of countries, the elections happen together. In some countries, they happen separately. Like we in India have historical reasons to have it separately. But now we are finding it reasonable to have it together. And the high-level committee has recommended this. And the cabinet, as we all know, has taken a decision today. And there have been good amount of consultation in the past. There will be some more consultations, I guess, on going various steps of it. But the apprehensions are more political in nature. And I think if we dissociate ourselves from the politics of it, the decision will be good. If it is only seen in terms of election, democracy, and nation building, and development of the country, moving country on a path which is stable, secure, and towards a great future, without any avoidable digressions, then it would appear a good concept. But this would require political convincing, because elections impact all the people of the country. And our party system, we have a multi-party system, and it has to be a consensus. Will be. I don't think it's a desirable. It's a necessity almost.
Right,
It's
sir.
a necessity. So, because the political parties leave aside people, People are the first stakeholders of an election. But then the second big stakeholders are the political parties. And we have a ruling alliance which has taken a decision, and based on past precedents, consultations and recommendations and some justified points. If there are some others who are saying some other points, including, for example, Election Commission may come out with certain requirements of its own. And those have to be respected before it is fully and finally and solidly implemented.
So, final question in terms of big advantages, or advantages, one poll, one election, decoding one poll, one election, coming from somebody who has helmed the Election Commission of India, 5 big takeaways.
I think it is overall. My personal opinion on this is that it is overall for the good of the country. But local elections are, at this point of time, are done by state election commissioners. I think their integration will take a good amount of time. Maybe at the end of it, we may not have a sudden dramatic situation in which one nation, one election is held together. Maybe it will be staggered in bunches. We will approach it incrementally, maybe. And every political party, all the political parties ruling, whichever side, I think they should approach this with an open mind rather than with a political mind.
Okay.
And open and constructive mind. I think that will help it. I think, and none of the political parties who are speaking, having reservations, they have gone through the process of elections. By the way, if it is called about centralization or fostering autocratic tendencies, that may not be the case actually, because many of these parties could win and have won in elections in times when elections are held together. It's not that that one party has been winning. India is one of the most mature democracies.
Absolutely.
In which people play very wisely their role. They will play wisely their role if there is either differentiated elections, or I would call it synchronized election. I don't I do not subscribe much to the phrase one nation, one election. I call it synchronized election or simultaneous elections. Okay.
Yeah. Synchronized polls. Basically, there is no, on the face of it, no impact when it comes to the whole end result of the polls, as these doubts that have been flared up by certain political outfits, the whole resistance.
I don't think so. I don't think the, you see, that any time interventions are done, which are statutory in nature, constitutional in nature, for example, women's reservation just not long ago, it had to move in its own course. Quite some consultation, distance select committees and all that, before it actually was passed by almost unanimously in Parliament, isn't it?
Right.
So all these major interventions of some type, this is a major intervention in the life of a nation, in our own constitutional, democratic, parliamentary and electoral life. This is a major intervention,
right.
Definitely, for sure. So that is why some consultation, some feedback is quite understandable. But I'm sure things will fall in place. And there should not be any reason for undue worries.
Worries. On that note, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Mr. Akshay Raut, former Director General, Election Commission of India. Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights.
Thank you very much.
On One Nation, One Poll. Thank you.